Hello, everyone. My name is Moshe Naveh, and welcome to today's SAP Community Call. Connect with expert SAP Process Orchestration to SAP Integration Suite. I would like to hand it over to Raghu. Raghu, please take it away.
Thanks a lot, Moshe. A very warm welcome to everyone in the call. This is our last call in the Connect with Expert series of this year. And we have with us Alexander and Shri Prasad. Both have a very rich experience in integration and PO, process orchestration. So I think we can start in, do you want to wait? We can start now. Over to you, Alex.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Raghu. Welcome also from my side. Welcome to this session about migrating from SAP Process Orchestration to the SAP Integration Suite. I'm going to go through some of the slides to set a context, and then I will hand over to Sri, who will actually give you a demo, right, about the tools that we built right now. The usual disclaimer. Then let's see how we actually envision the next generation hybrid runtime architecture. I mean, how we do hybrid runtime today is that we position both SAP Integration Suite and SAP Process Integration, SAP Process Orchestration to support the integration of your hybrid integration landscape, right? Whereas you use SAP Process Integration, SAP Process Orchestration mainly for connecting your on-prem landscape, you actually use SAP Integration Suite for connecting on-prem to cloud and cloud to cloud, right? And you may know that SAP Process Orchestration actually goes out of maintenance by end of 2027 with the standard maintenance and with the option to have extended maintenance until 2030. So actually there is an end of life by end of 2030. And so we are currently working in providing a runtime, the so-called edge integration cell that you see in the dark blue box below, right? The edge integration cell would be an on-prem runtime, containerized on-prem runtime running in a Kubernetes landscape, which is connected to an integration suite where you have the flexibility between actually modeling your integration flows in the integration suite, in the integration suite designer, and then the flexibility whether you actually deploy it either in the cloud or on-prem, depending on what kind of scenarios you're running, right? We position actually integration suite for any kind of scenarios, integration scenarios, let it be process integration flavor, right, where you connect system to system. As I said, here we actually support mainly on-prem to cloud, cloud to cloud. We also come with huge number of packages, standard packages, integration package that actually allows you to accelerate the implementation of your integration scenarios, right? But we're also supporting other integration flavors like API management-based integration, so that you can expose your APIs to a developer who uses those APIs to build apps on top of this, or using API policies to enrich your scenarios with policies, traffic policies, security policies, and so on, right? And we are also supporting then event-based scenarios, right, for real-time eventing, or when it comes to very high volume scenarios, right? Once we have this edge integration cell in place, so actually this is in beta right now, I come to this in a minute, then we will also have a migration path from process orchestration to the integration suite, right? So what do we actually support right now when it comes to the move from process orchestration to SAP Integration Suite? And you see this at a glance. So we distinguish between the assessment, planning, preparation, and then the actual migration and testing, right? You see here on the slides a couple of links pointing to best practices, an integration value calculator, the solution advisory methodology that helps you to actually define your own hybrid integration architecture, to define your own custom best practices. We have clubbed together links pointing to strategy blog, strategy paper. Then there is a migration guide that we have written together with consulting, right, where we actually cover most of the aspects which you need to take care if you actually plan and prepare for migration. Landscape aspects, connectivity, security. So actually also compares actually how this is done in process integration, process orchestration, and how this is actually done for the integration suite, right? And then on the right side, if you do the actual migration, there are integration flow design guidelines in place that help you to model your integration flows properly, taking into account also resource consumption, taking into account better readability, or how you would do error handling, fetching errors, how you would do monitoring, and so on, right? And there are also blogs that we have written where we actually describe the most commonly used enterprise integration patterns, how they are actually modeled on PO, sometimes also by using business process management, and compare this with how you would actually model this on the cloud integration capability of the integration suite. And there are a couple of blogs written by Sri, where he explains you how you can actually leverage integration artifacts from PO to leverage them on cloud integration, like how you can actually import mappings or import value mappings, right? In the blog below, there you find actually information about what kind of services we provide. There we have the so-called SAP Migration Factory. This is a global SAP program with a free assessment and planning, not only for the PO to Integration Suite migration, but also covering other migration aspects, like if you are on a Neo environment, would like to move to an integration suite on Cloud Foundry or other products like other BTP projects, right? And then we also have paid SAP services by SAP Consulting, where they do a more sophisticated or complete assessment and planning workshop, right? Multiple day workshop, also looking in the existing infrastructure architecture of the E2P architecture, and they would also do the implementation, right? Coming soon, there is actually an assessment and migration tool, which I will cover in a minute, right? And then we also have partners on board, partners that do also provide migration tools, but mainly, but here we mainly partner with them since they provide regression testing tools, right? There are two partners that we work very close with, and you can actually find the information on the SAP store. Good. To sum this up, so what is the interface migration strategy? It's more or less based on those 4 pillars. We have the migration assessment tool and the migration tool. Both tools are currently in beta. The beta has been started in October, mid of October. It's still ongoing and might run until Jan. And then we actually plan to have the first features of those tools shipped in GA, right, in general availability, by mid or end of January, right? And in the migration assessment tool, you would then actually access your existing process integration or process orchestration system would read the information from those systems, so all the scenarios that you have or interfaces, service interface that you have maintained in the enterprise service repository of process orchestration, all the configuration scenarios that you have configured, whereas we only support integrated configuration objects right now, right? And then you would actually do an estimation, an effort estimation, and a feasibility check, right? And you would actually check for if there are any technical showstoppers, or if the scenarios would actually be supported to run on cloud integration. And the migration tool is actually then embedded in the integration flow designer. So if you enter the package, then you would see a migration button, and from there you can actually start a migration, and the wizard would open, which guides you through the migration of your scenarios, right? And in the end, it would then automatically or semi-automatically generate an integration flow. As said, we have two partners where we closely work with, and they actually provide regression test tools, and this would then complete the overall end-to-end migration process, right? From assessment, planning, to the actual doing, and then to the regression test tooling in order to actually ensure that your scenarios run after the migration as expected. And the fourth pillar would then be the edge integration cell that I mentioned, where we provide this on-prem runtime in a containerized environment. This is this actually goes into beta by end of this month, and the beta project would actually go for half a year, and then it's planned to provide this by mid of next year. Good. Having said this, I would actually hand over to Sri, and Sri will show you both the assessment tool and the migration tool in beta.
Hello, Alex. Thank you. Hello, all. Sri here. Alex, can you just confirm you are able to see my screen? Okay, perfect. Okay. Let me know if you're able to see my screen. Hope you are able to. Okay, so this is
yes, sure.
Yeah, all the capabilities being planned. I think Alex already mentioned. So we will be having two more capabilities as part of the integration suite, which are called as migration assessment, and there is a migration tool all together. Okay, and we will be using the cloud connector as a connectivity service to get the data from the process orchestration for both the cases, for assessment and also for the migration. Okay, so current availability would be on the process orchestration 7.5, where we will be concentrating more on the iPaaS. Okay, and we are also planning for the backward compatibility with the older versions, but the first priority would be the supporting the process orchestration 7.5. Okay, out of scope as of now would be the classical configurations like sender agreement, receiver agreement, the classical configuration which used to call in process integration and orchestration world. So that's currently out of scope, and also the NetWeaver BPMs. Okay, and from a licensing perspective, this would be available on the both standard edition and premium edition of the integration suite, and also on the free tier. Okay, so with that, okay, so this is how the whole assessment looks like. And we will be using a cloud connector to pull the data from the process orchestration. And from a migration assessment tool perspective, the first step would be provisioning and activation. Very similarly, how you used to enable different services of integration suite, you'll be able to provision the service, migration assessment service. Okay, so once you enable this service or provision this service, there are certain role collection that will be added, and once you add these roles into your user or assign this to your user, you will be able to access the tool. Okay. The second part would be the system configuration, where you will be configuring different destinations in the BTP, where you'll point out to the process orchestration and backend. Okay. And then once you log into the and also there is a system configuration in the assessment tool, where you just mention the name of the process orchestration, and then you'll start with the data extraction request. Okay. So once the data extraction is completed from the process orchestration, you can run the evaluation request. Like, what are the different like scenarios that could be easily migrated, or what are the things where it requires kind of a remodeling, or where you want to change a bit on the design aspects. All this will be captured as part of the evaluation request, right? So once the evaluation request is completed, the report will be generated. The report contains all these details. It will be available in both Excel and also on the PDF version. Okay. I'll also showcase that tool also. This gives a high level assessment, and this is how the second migration will look like. Okay. So in migration also, we'll be using again the destinations from the BTP perspective, and we will be doing a data extraction, and then we will do the analysis, and then we will find out different templates which would be applicable for the scenario which we are migrating, and then we will generate an iFlow out of it. Okay. So this is the flow for both migration assessment and the actual migration tooling. Okay. So with this, I'll go to the migration assessment tool. So this is our, let me just do a refresh in case if it is long time, it will start giving error. Okay. Yes. Now I have a migration assessment tool. Currently, as Alex already mentioned, it is currently in beta. So you expect this tool to be available in the next year. The first part would be like setting up the systems, right? So I have already configured the process orchestration related destinations, and I'll be giving the names, system name, and all these things will be captured directly from the destinations. Okay. You will be able to see some of the systems which I have already configured. It shows some of the user IDs, authentication, or on-premise. There is a location ID with respect to Cloud Connector. Everything would be coming, and you can add any multiple systems, and also even it supports centralized ESR also. Okay, so you can see here same as integration directory. If it is changed, then you can even configure the separate connections. Okay, and then the request comes. The first request would be the data extraction. Like, you need to create a request to pull the data from the process orchestration. Basically, this data would be used for the scenario evaluation. Okay, so I have already run a request yesterday, the demo, and I'll just show this, like how exactly you can run this. It's very simple to run. Let me just copy this. And let me change this to 14th. Let me select the system and click on the create. Okay, so it will take some time based on number of scenarios which you are having on the back end. Okay, so it shows all the logs and everything. In case of inconsistency, everything it will show. I'll just click on the already executed request. Here you'll be able to see there are some warnings where some of the iFlows are not found. There is a conflict. So all these things will be given. Okay. And since it is still in beta, you can expect some more improvement on the tooling. You'll be able to download this particular extraction log, and you can analyze what kind of errors are coming and where you want to fix it. Okay. So all this feature would be available soon. And now I have already created a request, so it will take some time. Let me reuse the whatever the data extraction I have done day back. Okay, so it has you can see there are 3 status, right? There's an error, in progress, and completed. Okay, if I go back to the request, so there is a scenario evaluation request. You can see here where you can do a scenario evaluation based on the data extracted. Let me create a new request. Let me put it as 05. Let me take one that we have extracted yesterday. Let me give some name and click on the create. So basically, whatever the data we have fetched from the process orchestration, right? So we will be evaluating based on the data extracted, like we will be having the ICO details with all the communication channels or different parameters or different objects which we have created on the process orchestration. Okay, so it will take some time, couple of minutes. Okay, it is completed now. So there is a button you can open in a dashboard within the tool, or there is also an option to download it as an Excel or as an PDF file. Okay, so maybe let's open it via the dashboard. Okay, so this is how actually the dashboard looks like, right? So we have already done an assessment, so we'll be able to see different status like migrate, adapt, and evaluate, right? So these are the three status you will get when you run an assessment service. Okay, migrate is nothing but there are no feature gap as such, and you will be easily able to migrate these scenarios with very little modification. For example, it's a mindset change. For example, you are having a SOAP sender channel on the process orchestration side. How exactly will expose those channels, right? So basically, the endpoint URL which you will be getting would be the combination of the sender service or a sender interface name, and you will form it explicitly, right? So those cases you might need to change it when you move this to the integration suite, because we will be having different set of URLs when you move it to CPI. So that kind of changes you might need to do, right? So there are something called as adapt, right? I mean, there are scenarios where you might need to use the existing features of CPI or a cloud integration, right? For example, you are having a parameterized or a lookup currently in the message mapping, right? There is an RFC lookup you are having in the message mapping, right? So you might need to adapt it. Basically, you might need to go to the CPI, and then you might need to have an content enricher or a request replay and get the data from the backend S4HANA system with an RFC receiver adapter. Then you can proceed further, right? So small changes to the existing design, right? So the third category would be kind of an evaluate, whether there is a feature which is missing, or kind of scenarios where you might need to do the remodeling thing, right? I mean, for example, you are having a Java mapping on the process orchestration where you are doing an explicit lookup, right? I mean, you are calling an HTTP channel inside a Java mapping where you get some kind of token, and then you set it up, and then you take it further with the actual processing, right? So that kind of scenarios, I mean, you might need to go back to the CPI and you can redesign it, because when it comes to the process orchestration, we are following a very strict pipeline where the possibilities are very less, right? But in the cloud integration, it's wide open, right? So you can use a lot of stuff which are available, and there are a lot of other options to model it, different ways of modeling it, and you can leverage those. Okay, so these are the three different status you'll be getting, and apart from that are some scenario by effort estimation. Okay, so just to call out, this is very high level effort for a migration perspective. Okay, so we will be dividing this based on the small, medium, large, Excel kind of t-shirt sizes. Okay, but just to give a note here, so in a full-fledged implementation project, there might be a lot of factors when calculating the actual numbers, right? In typical scenarios, so you will take some time to do the requirement gathering, and then you do the actual development, and then you will consider different cycles of a testing, right? 2 or 3 cycles of testing, and then you will do the deployment in the production environment, and then you go with the PCLS, post-go-live support, right? So we will not be considering all these numbers in this particular estimation. This is very high-level estimation from typically development perspective. Okay, so and also you'll be able to see more changes to this particular tool, because we have already started with the beta, and we have received a lot of feedback also from customers who are experienced in the beta. You will be able to see those in a month or two. Okay, and also it provides an overview of the different adapters like sender adapter, receiver adapters which are used, and it will give a count also, right? So you can visualize this here, like number of channels which we have used. And then in the next tab, you'll be able to see different ICO keys, right? And there is a size and there is a migration status, right? In the overview, it was graphically represented, like what are the different status, like evaluate, adapt, migrate. And similarly, for each and every ICO key, you will be able to see this particular status. Okay. From a migration perspective, so this is very important to have a template, right? I mean, we are working on kind of a template-based migration tool where each and every ICO key will be assigned to a template, right? So this template would be used when we are doing the actual migration. Okay, so this gives this particular template identity and variant. So by just combining these two, you'll be able to get a template ID, okay, which we'll be using in the migration. Okay, so currently you will be able to see this is something which you are getting here, the template IDs and everything. But you, if you, whenever I showcase a migration tool, you might need to do this explicitly, like you need to copy this particular migration template ID from the migration assessment report, and then copy it to the migration tool whenever it asks for a template ID. Okay, but just to give an heads up, so we are working also on an engine which automatically detects this particular template ID, and then it takes further. With automatically it does the detection, like this belongs to so and so template, and you can proceed further with the migration. Okay, you don't have to worry, or you don't have to explicitly go back to the Excel or the report which we have generated from assessment. It will be done automatically. Okay, so this will be available soon with the additional features which are coming up. Okay, then let me go to this scenario evaluation and download the PDF file. Okay, so whatever I have shown in this particular UI, right? So this will be captured even in the PDF format. Okay, where we will detail out everything. Takes a couple of seconds. Where you can see the summary, then classification status, scenario summary, adapter summary. Everything will be captured in a PDF format so that it's easy for you to refer it, right? The same kind of diagram, or you'll be able to see the split up, and then the center number of adapters, and if you scroll down a bit, but the t-shirt sizing, like the minimum effort, maximum effort, number of integration scenarios, you'll be able to see this details. And also, if you scroll down a bit, right, the different approach for the recommendation, and then there is a list of ICOs with the status. And similarly, if you scroll down a bit more, you'll be able to see all the details pertaining to your PO system. Okay, so whatever we have shown in the tooling, right, in the UI, so this will be available as part of the PDF with some kind of extra details, okay, which is properly documented, easy to consume further. Okay, so this is how the whole migration assessment tool looks like. Okay, there is one option also, you want to download the Excel file. Let me do that also. It will take a couple of seconds. Okay, you can see here there is an Excel sheet which is being opened, and you'll be able to see an ICO key here. If you do this, okay, for each and every ICO key, there is a template ID, right? P2P async, and there is a lot of templates which we have created. So we will be shipping the templates, and you'll be able to select those. Okay, and as part of roadmap engine, we are working on kind of internally, it will be able to detect some of the templates automatically when doing the migration. Okay, so these two results will be able to download from the assessment perspective. Then we will proceed further with the actual migration. Okay, so this is basically a CPI tenant, right? So let me do a refresh for a second. So we have already enabled the migration tooling here. So once you click on the edit, so you'll be able to see a migrate button on the package level. Once you click on this, it asks for the connectivity. Okay, so we have already created some of the destination in the BTP, and all these details will be shared in as part of the SAP Hype documentation, step by step. Like what is the naming convention you should follow, how exactly you need to do on the BTP, everything would be shared. Okay, and then you click on this connect. It should connect now. Okay, let me go back here and refresh the cloud connector. Give me a second. Click on the connect again. Let's see, it should work now. Okay, it's connected. Okay, you'll be able to see this, the next step, which was earlier grayed out, now it's available. And then you click on next step. And when you click on this, you'll be able to see all the icons from your process orchestration. Just to simplify this whole experience, we have some filters. Let me just put something. And automatically you'll be able to see all the icons with the interface name PIT_files, right? Let me take one of the ICO, right? If I scroll down a bit, there should be one. PIT pattern 3. Okay, this one. Let me take this. And, okay, this. Just okay. Now I have a next step. It asks for a template. Okay, so if I go back to this list, I'll be able to find out this template ID. But I know this BTP async 004. And once I click on the next, it asks for a iFlow name. Right? Go to CI. Com demo. Let me give this kind of name for a second. And then let me click on the review. Now you will get a window here where you will be getting an option to edit any changes or you want to do. We are done. Then you click on the migrate button. It takes a couple of seconds, and then I'll be able to see. Then I'll go back here. The migration is successfully completed. If you click on the save, search for this particular artifact, you'll be able to see a demo. I'll just open the iFlow, and then you can see. So I have a process orchestration scenario, ICO, with 2 message mapping, graphical message mapping, and 1 with an XSLT mapping. Okay, it's basically a SOAP to SOAP scenario. I have already called out, right? If in case of a sender SOAP adapter, usually we used to get an SOAP endpoint URL directly by clicking on the ICO, right clicking and getting an endpoint URL, right? So similarly, you might need to update this address so it comes with an CXF endpoint. And different options you can select, right? I think you are already aware of it, like you want to select it as a one-way or a robust where you are expecting some response from them. All these options you can set it up. So you can just set it as demo. And from the receiver adapter perspective, so we are hitting some internal server, you can see here. And this particular endpoint also being copied here. And authentication, you need to explicitly select here, and you might need to give create a security artifact in the monitoring tab of this cloud integration, and then you have to give that alias here. Okay, and if you go back to here and see the message mapping, Okay, so whole message mapping is being copied here, right? So whatever the different transformations we have set, all these things would be copied here. And similarly on the XSLT mapping also. Okay, so once it is done, you can go to the save and you can deploy it and you can send a message from you or any of the client. Okay, I think this ends the whole demo. I think maybe we can get started with Q&A.
Yeah, probably. Thanks a lot, Sri. So probably before starting the Q&A, just some comments. So this is beta status, right? So we have actually done a couple of improvements already, which will be shipped soon, which you actually would see then on the development environment, on our development environment. Like we have reworked the categories, right? So we actually have also reworked the rules. So there were some rules wrongly defined, and then we also have worked on the definition of the categories, right? Actually, we don't call this migration status anymore because it's actually not a status, it's a category, right? Because we somehow assessed scenarios and then we assign them to a category, whether they are ready to migrate, whether adaptation is required, or whether evaluation is required. And we are also working on reworking on the templates. And as you've seen in Sri's demo with the migration tool, right? You had this list of different templates which were proposed, and right now this is not restricted to the template which is applicable, right? And then actually once we go GA, you would only see more or less one template, right? So you would actually then the template in the migration tool, the template that fits most would then also be directly proposed, right? You see this, so there are so the moment we go GA, it will look a bit differently, right?
Thank you, Alex. Yeah. I could see some questions in the chat. So, Alex, would you be answering those? There is a hybrid integration strategy. Is it something? Do we need to use both PO and CPI because specific functions in CPI will be covered in Q4 23 and not currently?
Actually, I can't see any questions in the chat.
I think it's available in the YouTube comments
chat.
I see. Okay.
Maybe I will post it in our chat. I have it now. Yeah. This is the question, Alex. Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Maybe Raghu, you can also read it out. Read out the questions.
Sure. So the question was, could you please explain more about the hybrid integration strategy? The thing is, do you need to use PO and CPI because specific functions in CPI will be covered in Q4 23 and not currently?
Yeah, I mean, right now, if you have both, right, you would still run your scenarios. So if you have both integration platform in place, right, you would still run your scenarios that connect your on-prem system using Process Orchestration. And for the new scenarios, especially where you would be able to leverage the standard content, you would use cloud integration, or whenever you connect to cloud integration, you would use cloud integration, right? Then there is also an option on Process Orchestration that you can use the so-called cloud integration runtime on Process Orchestration, right? Where you model the scenarios on cloud integration and then run this on-prem in the cloud integration runtime of PO, right? This would also be an option, that at least for those new scenarios that you go for this, because this more or less resembles our future hybrid integration platform, where we run a similar concept. You model your scenarios in the cloud, but then you would run this either in the cloud or on-prem. But with the new environment, this would then be in this more lightweight runtime running on Kubernetes, right? There are some gaps in cloud integration, which might prevent you from moving completely to cloud integration, but you might also need to check. So if maybe a remodeling would be an option, right? But for this, we also created this assessment tool, right? This assessment tool would then actually help you to find out whether you are affected or impacted by some gaps or some restriction limitations, and it would also then propose some workarounds. An example would be there is no file adapter on cloud integration, right? And here this we would then categorize as adaptation required, because here we would propose to use the SFTP adapter, which might then have an impact on your overall landscape, right? Because you might then set up an SFTP server. I mean, if you have an SFTP server in place anyway, then the effort might be lower, right? But if you need to set up an SFTP server from scratch, so this might impact you more. And for this reason, we have actually categorized this as adaptation required, but at least we can somehow propose a workaround. There are other scenarios like lacking support for exactly once in order, where we have categorized these scenarios into evaluation required, because I mean, here we have a gap which will be filled, right? So it's the supporting exactly once in order is on our roadmap, but this will also take a while, and until we haven't supported this or haven't implemented this to be supported in cloud integration, you either might run this still on Process Orchestration, or you might also consider to do a redesign. I mean, sometimes I've seen at customers that they use exactly once in order or have set up the scenarios in an exactly once in order manner, although they don't need this, right? Yeah, I hope this answered to some extent your question. Any other question? Actually, I can't see the YouTube chat. Should I open this, Raghu?
1 second. Raghu, you're on
I
mute.
think the rest of the questions I think I have answered in the chat itself.
Yes, I was on. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Alex, I have answered some of the questions in the live chat itself.
Yeah.
General template ready and echo case, those are the only criteria for to select which scenarios to migrate, how to perform a control migration for complex landscape with large amount of interfaces. Are we expected to scroll and read them? Okay, so see whatever we have shown, right? This is the beta phase of a product, okay? And we do have a lot of other features as part of the roadmap, right? So you'll be able to see this, I mean, the additional like a bulk migration or scenario specific migration, which would be available in the tool. Okay, so from the beta tool perspective, so this is what we have currently. Okay, the enhancement would be also planned, like the different feature sets, and once the tool goes as are generally available, you will be able to see all the features which are planned for next year for a couple of quarters, right? That will be published in the Roadmap Explorer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got your point. I think for level, right? The integration component, like based on the software components, right? I mean, so you'll be able to do this controlled way of migration, because we will be adding more filter condition where you can select some of the folders or some of the configuration scenarios where it just pulls out all the scenarios underneath that configuration scenario or a software component, so that option would be made available. Okay, just to answer the Lawrence, right? Why the reprocessing of message is not placed in CPI, right? I mean, so this is where the whole cloud mindset will come into picture, right? So we have already given some of the options, like you can manually do the modeling, right? Either you can create a JMS or add a data store option, and you can set this reprocessing concept, right? I mean, if you want to read write 3 times, 5 times, whatever it is, so CPI comes with its own set of JMS senders where JMS queues, you can use those and you can explicitly model it, right? I mean, so this you need to do it explicitly on the cloud integration, right? With respect to exactly once in order, you expect this detail should be soon available as part of the roadmap explorer. Like there will be kind of an step that would be made available where how you can configure that and all these details would be shared.
Yeah, to add from my side, so regarding exactly once, we have published a couple of integration flow guidelines, and where we described how to set up scenarios exactly once, right? With quality of service exactly once, depending on your boundary conditions, right? Whether the sender supports restart, whether the receiver is idempotent, right? And so if the sender doesn't support restart and the receiver is not idempotent, then you would actually need a JMS queue to decouple the processing, right? Put a message first in the JMS queue and then restart from the JMS queue. And then before you send the message to the receiver, you would use an idempotent process call to ensure that you don't send duplicates. And this is actually also reflected in the templates that we support. For the template supporting async communication, we have different kind of templates, right? And there is actually one template which would actually use a JMS queue in between. And there is also a template that uses this idempotent process call, right? This is actually taken into account also by the migration tool.
Thanks, Alex. I'll answer the question. Antonio, how will the migration assessment differ if a customer has an edge integration cell running, right? From an edge integration cell perspective, or so this is just a runtime change, right? I think you are already aware of product profiles in the as part of CPI, right? Cloud integration. Earlier, we used to have a separate product profile for the process orchestration, right? If you remember that, in a similar way, right, you will be having one more product profile that will be available as part of the edge integration cell. So once you do the migration, then you will be able to set that product profile and then you can go further, right? So that that message will be processed in the separate edge integration cell, which already which Alex showcased, right? There's one more question. Any plans for making CI more useful for event-driven architecture? Right. Yes, I think we are currently working on this more or less. So I think it is already announced. There's an advanced event mesh that's coming up in the as part of the integration suite, right? So where you'll be able to completely handle the life cycle of events, right? So where you'll be able to use more of a cloud integration stuff also. Yeah, I think you'll be able to get that details soon. I think there are some blocks that is being planned to give it to the give a try or kind of a demos that will be planned from the advanced event mesh perspective.
There is, yeah. So I think we have a last question. There is one more question. Adding JMS queue to standard iFlows. Make it custom and plan to deploy new versions.
I think I would suggest to create an influence request, like how exactly we can tackle this. For sure, we will answer it. So basically, we currently, from an SAP perspective, we are planning to have kind of an exits, right, internal to all the standard packages where we are providing, so that if in case of customization, you can handle it. The other option would be, of course, the whatever you have mentioned, right? I mean, in case of SOAP or kind of an HTTP endpoint, so you will be able to do this. I mean, you can just create one more iFlow, then reroute that message from a JMS flow to that particular iFlow. But I agree the pain point here. So I would like to take this as part of the influence request so that we will see how best we can support you. Jerry, unfortunately, not able to read your question.
Yeah. It's better to write your query in English. It's in, I think, Japanese or Chinese.
Yeah, it's very difficult to understand. Sorry for that.
Yeah.
And also the question can be later asked in the community under the SAP Integration Suite, and we will be happy to answer it.
Yeah, of course. So any more questions? I think we have answered almost all the questions, right?
Yes, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, in case of any further questions, as Moshe mentioned, so you could post it in the community. You can tag me, Alex, or Raghu. We will be happy to answer your queries.
Yeah. So then if there are no further questions, I think we can close the call. Yeah, we can wind up. Thanks a lot, Shri, and thanks a lot, Alex, for the community call.
Yeah.
Thanks
a lot for attending.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much, everyone, for attending the call. Thank you for a great call. The recording will be available in the SAP Community YouTube channel and also the presentation in the upcoming days. Thank you very much. Have a great day.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.